This episode of Dueling Ogres is brought to you by Dragon Age Inquisition. Find the link in the show notes below or on our Facebook in the comments to receive 20% off of your pre-order through Green Man Gaming. Prepare yourselves for a battle of epic proportions between two titans. Feast upon their voices and revel in their words. This is Dueling Ogres.
Hello, Ogres, and welcome to episode 17. Thank you for joining us, as always, on this monumental Wednesday evening, Earth date September 3rd, 2014. I'm your host, Remington Hitchcock, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Brandon Full. Say hello, Brandon.
Hey, Internet. We're in your ears right now. Where are you? Your car? Your living room? Your bedroom? The bathtub? Just close your eyes, lay back, let our voice wash over you. Get ready for some action. Hey!
Hey! That might have been your best intro yet.
Yeah, I've been practicing.
Yeah? In your head?
Yeah.
Because you didn't say anything to me. You're like a wordsmith of silence.
No, I haven't been practicing.
Oh, that was right off the cuff?
A wordsmith.
I'm impressed.
A wordsmith of silence. The most boring prestige class.
Oh, goodness.
We're going later than we normally do recording, so we may be a little off.
They don't know that. You just ruined the mystique.
They would know if you would have said Wednesday night instead of Wednesday evening in the intro like I had suggested.
Your suggestions are terrible.
Apparently.
Evening rolls off the tongue better. It sounds smoother and
yeah,
sexier.
But night is more truthful. And I think we should set a precedent of never lying to our listeners about anything. That's my promise to you, listeners. We're never going to lie to you about anything. Anytime we edit things, we're going to let you know.
Yeah.
If things are cut out of order, we're going to let you know.
Yeah, that'll probably happen.
Mm-hmm.
For the record, Brandon is a liar. A terrible liar. So you should never trust anything he says.
Fair enough. I don't really know what to say to that.
The only reason that people find him truthful is because he kind of looks like Jesus with that hair.
I do.
You do.
People didn't believe me before I had long hair, though.
That you were Jesus?
Right.
Right. I understand. I mean, you've got the Jewish nose for it, so... He was Jewish, right?
Jesus?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. You looked at me like I said something insulting.
You said I have a giant nose. I do.
You have the nose for it. I didn't say you had a giant nose.
When you say it's implied, the subtext is so strong.
Oh boy, that's awkward. So, this episode we have a special surprise. Our first interview.
Yeah.
And we're really excited about that.
Yeah, I know. I can't wait. I hope we don't mess it up.
Yeah, I mean, we probably will, because if our track record, if our ability to speak has any
yeah, I love that
you
stumble over your words while trying to say, I hope we don't stumble over our words. That was great.
Everything I do is awful.
I don't know. It's weird to be going into an interview because the way I feel like we do the podcast is, to put it nicely, I would say off the cuff.
Right.
To put it truthfully, I would say underprepared, amateur,
half-assed,
lazy, boring.
Yeah.
God, boring. God, this is boring.
Are we boring?
I'm falling asleep. So we'll see how this goes. But.
Right. But first, we've got some news, some potential news.
Did you look it up? Is it just a rumor?
It looks like it is not a rumor. It looks like there has been paperwork involved. The Tick, live action. Coming back, starring Patrick Warburton.
I'm excited.
I am too.
I love The Tick. The live action Tick. I've never seen the cartoon.
Yeah, which, like I said, you really should go back and watch some of it.
I know that you said that it's a travesty.
We talked about it a couple days ago, right?
Yeah, Monday.
Right, Monday. Now I don't even know what I was talking
we
about.
were preparing interview questions. That's why I was
yeah,
Monday.
we were working on it.
But yeah, the Tick, the live action, what you saw, it's on YouTube, right? It's on Netflix, it's on Crackle, which kind of sucks, but you can get some decent stuff on there.
Yeah, and you can definitely watch it on YouTube as well. Now, if this deal is completely as solid as it kind of seems to be, you will probably see those being pulled down. So you'll definitely want to get in and watch the first season for free on Netflix.
I don't think it'll get pulled off Netflix. I think if anything, it'll probably get into the featured watch list for a while.
Well, the Tick, the property itself is owned by Sony now, I believe. So the fact that it hasn't been pulled off already, I don't think it was released under Sony back then.
Pulled off of what? YouTube?
YouTube, yeah. Because Sony can be pretty bad about that sometimes.
Yeah.
So, if they own the property now and they're going to be releasing a new show about it, then there's a fair bet that they will pull that stuff down.
Yeah, but it's not a remake. It's like a season 2. So they're going to want, the Tick on TV, it was pulled after one season. It clearly wasn't super popular.
Yeah.
So they're going to, I assume, they're going to want to put it out there. They're going to want to keep it on Netflix, but push it more.
Yeah,
say, this is here, watch it. They're not going to want to
push it through people uploading the seasons on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely not on YouTube they'll pull it. But
yeah.
I think overall, they would be dumb to not push it a little bit, because a lot of people haven't seen it. You were a huge fan of the cartoon, and you'd never seen the live action.
Well, not all of it, no. I think the only episode that I ever actually got to watch before we started talking about it the other day was the pilot. And it moved way too slow for me. And I think it had a lot to do with just budget constraints.
Yeah, well, and that was what you were saying. That was your main problem with the show. Even the episodes you watched when I was over here was that it was just slow, right?
Yeah, it was. I think the Tick costume, whoever did the costume work, at least for some of that, was just super impressive.
Yeah, they did, I think, a phenomenal job for what they could have done with that costume.
The Tick costume was just beautiful. The Arthur costume was about as true to, the cartoon as you could get.
Yeah, there was really no way. Did he even had the ears in the TV show, right?
Yeah, he totally had the ears. Because, you kind of have to.
Or
because
antenna, I guess they would be.
Yeah, the running gag is that people think that he's running around in a bunny suit.
Yeah.
So.
Did they have that gag in the cartoon also?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A lot,
yeah.
If I remember correctly. So I'm definitely gonna have to go back through and watch some of the cartoon episodes. For those of you who don't know a little bit of the history of the Tick, the character was originally created by Ben Edlund, Edlund, and it was kind of a spoof on superheroes in general, where they're these larger than life, completely impervious sort of characters, and then there's usually a moral implication along with them a lot of the times as well.
Well, when did he come out?
It was the early 90s,
late 80s,
very late 80s, 1988. So yeah, after he was released as the mascot, he kind of got a spin-off into his own little comic series. And then that got picked up through Fox and turned into an animated TV show in 1994, I think it was.
Yeah, which I never watched, and I have absolutely no reason to give as to why I didn't. I would have been, if it was 94 or roundabouts there, I would have been 10, 11, 9, somewhere in there.
Right.
The exact right age range to watch the Tick.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I just never watched it.
I don't know. I thought it was good, especially, the, at least the intro song, right? The scat.
Yeah.
The scat.
Because you would sing that all the time in fucking high school.
Da-dwee-da-da-da-dwee-dow.
Yeah.
That was, I think that might have been what hooked me on it. It was just so catchy and yeah, man, real cool.
Yeah, well, and both your parents were beat poets.
Yeah.
So that might have something to do with it, too.
Can you imagine my mom being a beat poet?
Ba-ba-dee-ba-ba-ba.
Skibbity-bop.
Clean your room. Shibbity-ba.
So, but yeah,
I regret you every day. Shibbity-bop-bop-a-dow.
That's terrible.
Your beat poet mom said it, not me.
So the story goes that, the cartoon came on, and then it got canceled, and then a little while later, they created a live-action series.
More than a little while later. The live-action series was, I think, 2001.
Yeah, it was Yeah. Something like that, 2001.
Yeah, I actually don't remember the live-action series even being on. I saw The Tick entirely because typically for Christmas, my parents will give me, like, some random Adult Swim or whatever DVDs that they get online for me. They just look through Adult Swim, Amazon, and they're like, click, 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 order these, done.
Right.
And The Tick, the live-action Tick, was one of those recommended things that they got for me, and I found out later that it was because it was also on sale for like $1.
Right.
So I didn't watch it for a good 6 months. I was just like, I don't really give a shit. But I finally put it in when I'd exhausted my other DVDs and really liked it. Really got hooked on it. And it definitely is slow, you're right. But
yeah,
it's almost slow in like a Seinfeld way.
Yeah.
It's not, it's not like Seinfeld as far as the humor and stuff goes, but it definitely has more of a sitcom feel to it almost.
Yeah.
It's kind of indescribable what the show was, and maybe this is why it failed, is because, TV likes to have things they can put into a category. Like, oh, this is a sitcom, this is a romantic comedy, or whatever. And the live action at least doesn't really fit into any of those.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly a sitcom. It wasn't exactly like a superhero drama. Of course, early on, they didn't really have those anyway. It's not like now where you have Arrow and you have the Flash coming out and things of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, Arrow and the Flash and stuff is within the last year or so, or 2 years. I don't know how long Arrow's been out because I don't really give a shit about it. But, yeah, I mean, The Tick was way before. And I mean, even around that time, they had, like, The Cape was one series of some shitty NBC show about a guy. I don't know anything about it, so I assume it was a guy with a magic cape.
Yeah, it did not last long, but actually, I thought it was pretty decent.
Did he have a magic cape?
No. Oh, God, I can't even remember enough about the series to talk about it.
Didn't he trained under, like, a magician or something, right?
Yeah, something like that. Who used to be a thief, I think.
And the thief stole a magic cape.
Yeah.
And then passed it on to him, and he had all kinds of crazy adventures with his magic talking cape.
Yeah.
Did the cape talk?
Yes.
Okay,
totally.
awesome. No. Well, and there was also that show that was kind of, I think it was called No Ordinary Family. Something like that. I only think that went one season, too. And it was about a family of superheroes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like kind of a drama, I think hour-long show.
Uh-huh.
I'm pretty sure it had the dude from The Shield in it as the main guy. I don't know his name.
Yeah.
Shieldy McBalderson.
Shieldy
McBalderson, famed actor. But yeah, so these shows don't really have a precedence of staying on the air, at least in early to mid 2000s when a lot of these, they tried to push them and they just apparently weren't ready for them,
Yeah. I mean, now with the surgence of great movies coming out, I think television superheroes are really finding their place.
Eventually it's going to hit a saturation point, but it hasn't yet,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that might just because we're uber nerds.
Well, yeah, that's part of it, but, I mean, even normal culture is still loving this stuff, is still fucking eating it up.
Yeah.
I mean, when Guardians of the Galaxy can rule the movie charts, that says something about how willing people are to see, like, superheroes. I mean, when you've got a fucking talking raccoon, for Christ's sakes, as one of the 4 main Guardians, or 5, I mean, that says something about people's willingness right now to watch superhero things.
Or a plant character that can only say, I am Groot.
Yeah.
So, the story is, going back, now that we've come full circle on our tangent, is that the Tick is going to be renewed, that Patrick Warburton is going to be playing it, and he went to Sony and actually inked a deal with Amazon and Sony to reprise his role, and that Ben Edlund is going to come back and do the writing and the producing of the show. So, I know that, I mean, I don't think he's ever really let go of the property entirely, Ben Edlund, but...
Oh, that's cool that the original creator's coming back to do writing for it.
Yeah, he's still coming back to do the writing for it. And his voice was so prevalent. I mean, the way his writing style for even the series, I'd never got to read the comics, but, the television show, and his ability to make quips and just string... The Tick is well known for his ability to just string a bunch of random words together.
Yeah.
And
did he do that even in the cartoon?
Impressive. Oh, yeah. The Tick was constantly saying...
Like, the...
external monologue.
The
basically.
Foamy beer of justice. Yeah. Drinking down the gullet of Lady Liberty. Like, stuff like that he said in the cartoon as well.
And it was so good. Just this all-American hero who has no idea what was going on.
Well, and what's amazing, I think, about the Tick, at least watching from the live action, I don't know if it was like this in the cartoon, is that he's just, like, impervious to almost everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of, in the live action at least, any point where physically anything harmed him at all.
Yeah.
I mean, you would see, like, the worst villains ever cartoonishly almost just bump into him, with him not reacting at all, you know?
Yeah.
Was it like that in the cartoon as well?
Oh, yeah, he was completely just... I'm not even entirely sure he was ever actually knocked unconscious during the show. He was knocked loopy a few times.
Mm-hmm.
But he was never, I don't think, knocked unconscious.
I really think Patrick Warburton is just a fantastic choice.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, his size alone is enough, but he also has that beautiful baritone, bassy voice.
Beautiful.
It is. It's
beautiful.
Like
me?
Yeah. Your
I
sexy voice.
often get confused for Patrick Warburton when I'm speaking.
Yeah, from deaf people, though.
Yeah, I was making a doctor's appointment yesterday, and I got called ma'am on the phone. And it's happened to me so often on the phone and going through drive-thrus that she was checking something. She comes back, and she goes, ma'am, like to check if I'm there. And it's happened so often that I go, sir. Yeah, so anyway, just correcting it. And what's funny is I gave her my name already.
Yeah.
So in this woman's mind, there's a nasally woman walking around named Brandon.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Which has been used as a female's name on a number of occasions, enough to make it popular.
Brandon?
I was being sarcastic.
Oh, okay.
Oh, gosh. So, along the lines of talking about writing and comic books, that's what we have for you this evening.
Yeah, I'm excited.
With us today is comic writer Mr. James Patrick. He's worked on such titles as Batman Confidential, number 49, Joker's Asylum 2, Harley Quinn, Green Arrow Salvation for DC, as well as Death Comes to Dillinger and IDW's Star Trek Alien Spotlight, Vulcans, along with a host of other titles. It's a pleasure to have you with us, James.
Hey guys, what's up?
Good, how are you doing?
Pretty good, can't complain.
Good to hear, good to hear. So, how exactly did you get into writing comics?
That's like the question that I should always be prepared for, right? Because everybody asks it.
Yeah, I was going to say that's probably something you've been asked a lot.
Yeah. It's not complicated, but the thing is that at some point I wanted to be a writer, and then at some point I decided I was going to be a comic writer. You know, I was reading comics when I was, probably 10 years old. I started reading them as, more than a hobby, like intensely. And I really fell in love with books like Frank Miller's Daredevil, and later books like The Dark Knight and Watchmen and stuff like that. And I guess I've always been a nerd or a geek, you could say, but it was really like reading Frank Miller's Daredevil. I was blown away, and I was like, wow, this is what comics can be. And I think, that's one of those moments, that was one of those moments in life that started me to think in terms of, oh, this would be really cool to do something like this. And at some point I just started messing around, writing, and I didn't write comics right away. I actually left comics for a while because with everyone else in the 90s for a little bit, because the books were so bad for the most part, with the exception of like Preacher and say Sandman and stuff like that.
So the giant guns, pouches everywhere kind of phase, you dropped out of that also, yeah. Yeah,
the chromium covers and holographic covers and all that stuff. It really put a bad taste in everyone's mouth for a long time. And people just left, and I was one of the people that left for a little while anyway. And then, I was writing, and then I just came back and decided I wanted to write comics. And then I started the journey, I guess you could say.
So, what all did you work on in this interim period? Was it like screenplays or novels or things of that nature?
Yeah, I wrote a lot of short stories and stuff. When I was in college, I did some journalism and stuff like that, and I had some real supportive professors and stuff that said, hey, if you want to do this, you could probably do this because you're brag. I don't want to brag, but people supported me, and they basically were like, if you want to do this, you might be good at it, and that kind of pushed me into, taking it more seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And I think from there, at some point, I entered comics again, and then I started. Most everyone nowadays gets the break by self-publishing, and that's where. And I started self-publishing, and I self-published a book called Crackers, and it did really well critically, and that it just was a series of steps after that. I
actually remember buying Crackers. It was sold locally around here, and
that's right. It was. I mean, there was a lot of the comic shops have gone through evolutions around here, but was it Gateway?
Yeah, it was Gateway, I think, at the end of 28th Street. I bought it from there. I remember specifically because they had said that it was a local writer who had done it. And unfortunately, it's been so long that I don't really remember much of the story, but even when we were looking through your bio and Remington mentioned the name Crackers, I immediately remembered it had two birds on the cover.
Uh-huh.
So, and I remember at the time it really impacted me when I read it, as far as the fact that it was somebody local who had self-published, which was awesome. And also the writing itself was neat because it wasn't something I was seeing typically with the kind of superhero comics I was reading.
Right. Well, that's how you get your start is writing. Well, writing whatever you want to write usually, but that's crazy. I remember when that was my first book, and I remember when they had it on the stands there. It was pretty cool. But the fact that you remember it, and it predates all the other stuff I did, is pretty awesome.
Was it neat for you to walk into even a local comic shop and see something that you've had a hand in creating on the shelf like that?
Yeah, that was really cool. That was cool because I walked into, they carried it because I was local or whatever. But the big moment was I walked into Columbus. I was going to Mid-Ohio-Con, and there was a comic shop in there, in the mall at the time. Mm-hmm. I walked into that comic shop, and there it was on the stands, and I was like, it was the first time I'd seen it somewhere other than locally, because it had gone through Diamond and it had gone through distribution and stuff. And there it was on the store, bought through the catalog and all that stuff, and that was really cool.
So if you were to quantify or classify your style of writing, how do you think you would do that? Do you take more of a Hemingway approach, fleshing out every little tiny detail, or is it more of almost a Tolkien style where you may flesh stuff out, you may flesh out history and things of that nature, but you don't really have much of character development?
I don't know. I think it's different for every project in some ways. This is like an over. The question, that question is it comes into terms of what's your voice as a writer, and it crosses into what's the project you're working on at the time.
Yeah.
Don't forget, comics, they're very limited in the sense that, if Hemingway or Tolkien were writing a book, they could go on for as long as they want for the most part because it's there's no set page count.
Right.
So if they want to flesh out, a flashback for 65 pages, or if I can't believe I'm blanking out on his name. What's his name wants to talk about a whale? He wants to break down whales for 20 pages. He can't. You know what I mean? He can. But we have most time it's 20 pages, 22 pages. It used to be 22 pages, but now the industry's going down to 20 pages.
Oh yeah.
We got to get as much into that as possible. We got to make our points pretty quickly.
Would you say that
kind of plays into?
I was going to say, would you say that is probably your biggest constraint when writing for comics is just the size?
Yeah, I mean, I've learned to adapt to it. It's what I do, so I've learned to adapt to it. But the biggest constraint usually is work for hire, working on stuff for DC and stuff is time and just always the constraints of work for hire, whether it be them saying something like Batman can't do this, or that's the stuff that comes with work for hire, the obstacles that you always run into.
Yeah.
So I think I've learned to cope with that. I have this much to tell a story, and I've settled into that kind of structure and that kind of routine to say, this happens here, this happens here, this happens here. I got to get a character moment in here. I got to do this here.
Is there a lot of? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, is there a lot of back and forth when you're, work for hire for DC, where you may write something and they'll send back and say, page 3, panel 2, Batman wouldn't do that, or Batman wouldn't have this or that?
yeah, that's the process. You know, that's the difference with work for hire to creator-owned. And there is a lot of that. Or there's a little of it, but that exists. It just depends on which project you're working on. For the most part, a book like, let's say, when I worked on Harley Quinn, it doesn't tie into anything. So the continuity aspects really aren't there as long as I'm not contradicting something.
Right.
Or Batman Confidential, it was, you know, those are one-and-done stories. They exist in their own whenever. And what ends up happening is you're kind of freer to do your thing in that. Whereas when I worked on Green Arrow, it was part of that run, so to speak. There were things I had to be conscious of. So they were more likely to say, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this with Green Arrow than they were with Batman or Harley Quinn. You know, and Star Trek, you got to really be careful with Star Trek.
Yeah, definitely. Those fanboys are ravenous.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I am not in charge of what the artists draw, but they'll point it out to me that knob on the console does not go there.
You're like, I didn't script for that knob to be there, but thanks for your input.
But you got to be careful. I mean, you just, you know, you do the best you can, and there's just more of that with something like Star Trek and Batman and Harley Quinn. And then there is, you know, when you're writing your own stuff, you can get away with it.
With your run on Green Arrow, Salvation, that was the last run of Green Arrow before the 52 reboot, correct?
Yes, it was.
So, were there a lot more rules? I guess I don't really mean rules, but you know what I mean, constraints on writing for that, since it was pretty much the last hurrah of that Green Arrow before the reboot?
Well, I'll tell you what there was. The thing about Green Arrow was there wasn't a lot. I could do what I want as long as I did as long as I stayed within, as long as I colored in the lines and they didn't contradict anything or go too far overboard. I could pretty much do what I want, but I wanted, and you know, I overplayed this by a mile. I wanted to do a Green Arrow story that was like the old social commentaries and stuff. I wanted to return to that. I don't know how much you guys know about Green Arrow, but there were like the drug issues in the 70s, and there was race issues, and I'm like, man, Green Arrow was really a socially conscious book. Mm-hmm. I'm like, can I do that? And I tried to, and then right before the New 52 was coming out, they really had to rein me in because the New 52 was a big deal, and they didn't want to, they didn't want to roll the dice right before that and have these headlines like something controversial come out. And,
right, I understand.
Green Arrow just killed a bunch of hookers. Just what he does now.
Right. Hey, did you read that script? Because that was in my original script.
Well, you know when you accidentally slipped and just let your hard drive out to the internet? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
that was the thing with that. I mean, it was right before all that, and they just wanted to keep the leash on. And they didn't do anything wrong. I'm not saying that, I didn't get to write my story. I'm just saying that that's part of the process. That's part of working for them. You know, it's an honor to work for them, and you do it, for the most part, you do what they tell you. If they don't, it's their characters, it's their properties they have to protect.
Yeah. When you go into a project, especially with already established characters, and even sometimes not, do you sit down and kind of get yourself into a frame of mind before you start the story?
I read the shit out of what I can. When I got the Green Arrow gig, truth was, Green Arrow wasn't one of my most known. You know, I didn't know him like I knew Batman. I didn't know him like I knew Superman. I didn't know him like I knew Robin.
Right.
I wasn't in tune with him. And I just went out and went to the comic shop and I just started piling through, stacking up books and threw them on the counter. And it's funny because the comic shop guy's like, "Oh, you're writing Green Arrow, huh?" And so that's how you get in tune with that. You read as much as you can, and then I try to get in tune with the character too, not just the history.
Yeah.
But who is Oliver Queen? And
so what about personal stories, your own personal creations? I imagine the flow for that is a bit easier because you already have just an idea of the character in the background. No?
No. No, it's a little harder because you're starting from scratch. Now, it's not harder for everyone. Different people do different things, but you're kind of working a different muscle with it. If I go in and I write Batman, I don't have to do the heavy lifting on the character.
Right.
The character's already there. So I just have to kind of get into the current of it.
Yeah.
I have to make the frickin' river when I'm building a world or building characters or whatever. I you create everything. And, you know, I miss the mark sometimes. I'm like, you start and you're like, this character is like this, but you're not really, it's not consistent. And you really have to, I mean, maybe some writers can do that and they're great at it or whatever, but, you know, sometimes you know, you got to build every element. What makes, like with Batman, he's a detective.
Yeah.
He's, you know, he's a Batmobile. He's rich. He's a playboy. Well, he's kind of a playboy. And the playboy.
Right.
And the idea that's all that stuff's in play. They're just tools that I take out of the box. But I got to pick the tools when it comes to other stuff, and you got to fill that box. And, you know, so it's kind of like, you know, starting from scratch. If I say one more time, you feel free to punch me through the phone.
Well, I understand what you mean. We played a lot of D&D in the past, and whenever I am the dungeon master, I tend to take a top-down world building. I'll start with the main world and flesh that out, and then a lot of times my actual characters that they interact with tend to suffer and be a little more cookie cutter because of the fact
and
that
what you end up doing is making archetypes, you know, in certain situations, like Gandalf archetype or this or that.
Yeah. I would think with Batman too, you know, they've had 70 years-ish to develop the character, you know, whereas I imagine if you're going in with your own properties, you're starting fresh, and in some of the stuff that you create, like, okay, this character doesn't like this. That's going to evolve or change, or at some point you're going to say, man, what was I thinking?
Right. You know, in Batman, you're just trying to not, when it comes to the character, you're trying to not contradict. Like, you're trying to be in the tone of the character. You're trying to settle into that. Does he sound like this? Does he do this? You know, the other thing is creating all that. You know, some writers may be better at one thing than the other, but that's the differences between doing those two things.
Right. So having written for a wide range of genres, because I mean we're talking about Batman and Green Arrow, and that can be kind of set in this time, in this era, but you've also written things like Death Comes to Dillinger, where I didn't get a chance to read it, unfortunately, but from my understanding, I know. That's the problem with being a tiny operation. I have no money to go out and buy books and read.
You have no money to buy a $2.99 comic book, Remington?
No, I actually didn't. We ran up so much shit on credit cards this week. Damn. So that being said, I mean, you seem to have a very wide range of genres that you've written for, what with sci-fi and the Star Trek, and you also wrote, I guess, was it a one-shot for Angel? The puppet?
Yeah, well, there was an Angel annual, and I had one of the stories in it.
I gotcha.
And anybody who's familiar with Angel, they know who Lindsay and Eve are. Mm-hmm. And I wrote how they met, so that was fun. But yeah, you know, that again, when you're doing work for hire, you got to match that tone. I mean, Angel, you know, there's a tone there that's the Buffy tone. Angel's a little darker, but you still have to have that. You know, Angel's different than Angel and Buffy. They don't sound the same as something like, I don't know, Silence of the Lambs. Okay?
Right.
So you got to hit that. You know, you know you've got to settle into that tone, into that voice, that Whedon voice, or that whatever voice you want to call it.
So does that versatility help you to like keep your skills fresh, or do you find yourself occasionally struggling to meet the requirements of that content?
The thing is that I find it's easy for me to write humor. So I have a range, and then I can go into that dark place like Death Comes to Dillinger, or even Batman, which that book that I wrote for Batman was pretty tonally dark. But then I can switch over to Harley and just have her popping clips for the whole thing. But like you said, I started off with Crackers, and that's a humor book, so I've always had that muscle and been able to use it. So it's not hard for me. You know, maybe some people out there would disagree and say, well, your stuff sucks. So, you know.
They're listening to this right now like, James Patrick, you son of a bitch.
That's right.
Something I wanted to ask real quick, with you bringing up again Batman that you wrote for. I noticed when reading it a few days ago that it definitely has kind of like a darker Frank Miller theme to the story.
Yeah.
And it is more, I noticed, of kind of the detective Batman as opposed to the very heavy action Batman.
Right.
Would you say
that's what's awesome about Batman is he has all these facets of him, and you can tap into any one of these things. that whole issue, he's just snooping around an apartment building, and you're inside his head, and you see how that works. It's the Sherlock Holmes part of him,
right?
As opposed to, you can. That's the great thing about Batman is you can do a whole issue of him in the Batmobile, and it can feel like a speed racer cartoon. you can do a '60s, like the '60s TV show Batman.
Adam West, yeah.
Yeah, the crazy thing about Batman is there's such a range that he's been used that you can go almost anywhere with him. But yeah, I went into that. I know I interrupted your question, so go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, that was pretty much my question. I was just, I was curious as to whether you wrote Detective Batman. Is that like one of your favorite incarnations of Batman? Is the very methodical, or was that just what fit in the story you were trying to write?
It was real organic when I did it. I can't even remember why that came to be. I just knew that I had to write a good Batman story because that was my first. It was published after Harley Quinn, but it was actually a test. The Batman thing, yeah, it was early in my DC. It was my first script, and I just wanted to blow him away.
Right.
And that was for whatever reason trying to blow him away. That story came out of it.
So how did you get connected initially with DC to write something for them?
Well, Death Comes to Dillinger.
Mm-hmm.
It was on store shelves, and Dan Didio, the co-publisher now, I think he was publisher at one time. He's co-publisher now. He picked it up because they're always looking for talent. So he picked it up, he read it, and he contacted a friend, and that friend contacted me and says, "Hey, Dan's snooping around your stuff."
Just as simple as that. Huh?
Really? And so hacked his account, got some nude pictures of him.
Right. Yeah.
And I blackmailed him, and I got the right Batman.
So that's where the porno fanfic for Dan Didio came from.
Well, you guys do your homework. You find out all this stuff about me. I wrote that under a pen name of Long Dong Games.
So working for kind of freelance style writing, I mean, you don't really have to move to a bigger city for to get connected with a bigger publisher like that. But do you ever feel any pressure to move closer to?
No, comics don't have that problem. If I worked in television, that would be an issue. But comics don't have, and novelists, it's the same thing. Writers and the internet has just absolutely changed everything to the point of, Death Comes to Dillinger had me from the States writing it, a guy from Britain drawing it, a guy from China, a French guy who lived in China coloring it. And
nice.
So, the internet changed everything. And you don't need to live anywhere anymore, except if you're in television and you need to be in a writer's room.
Right.
Or, unless you're Kirkman and you've got all this stuff in development, you got to go to all these movies or meetings and stuff, like Robert Kirkman.
Yeah.
The creator of The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
So if you're heavy into producing IPs and all that, intellectual property, it's probably wise for you to live in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
But right now, Parkersburg, West Virginia is good enough for me.
So, do you look up or read a lot of or any reviews on your work?
Oh God, I'm terrible because I just read everything.
Oh,
Google. I break every rule. There are these everybody posts these things. Writers shouldn't Google their names. They shouldn't read reviews, and I break every one of those.
So
somebody mentions me in a tweet something, I get all giddy and clap my hands. So I'm really bad about that. I'm so narcissistic, it's just ridiculous.
So I saw a lot of praise around the Green Arrow stuff, where they were even going as far as to compare you to Judd Wittick. But at the same time, I also saw quite a few of those internet trolls who just couldn't leave well enough alone. I mean, does that affect you in any way? Do you?
It used to when I was younger, but just at the beginning, you did not. I was still learning how to deal with stuff like that.
Yeah.
I even made the mistake of responding to them.
Oh no. Oh no.
Which is the worst thing you can do, I think.
Yeah.
It's like poking at alligators with sticks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like
we've all been there.
Right. So for the most part, my work has been pretty well reviewed, from Batman to Harley and all that stuff. Green Arrow was a little bumpy, and it got some crap, and that's all part of it, and that's part of the learning experience or whatever. But yeah, I used to make the mistake. The thing was, I was so amateur and so young at the time that I couldn't even take like decent compliments sometimes. Somebody say to you, "Oh yeah, I kind of like that," and you're like, "Oh, you kind of like it?"
Yeah. What did you not like about it? And why do you hate everything that I do?
I'd back him into a corner and put my finger in his face for giving me a compliment.
Yeah.
But I don't know, everyone does that, but I was younger and, less experienced, and I learned that you take what you get and don't ignore the other stuff. You just try to learn from it.
Yeah.
How aware are your children now that you're a comic writer?
Oh, they are that my house is just saturated in the crap. They are just completely. What's really cool is when a package comes from DC, when something new comes out.
Yeah.
And we open it together, and I give them the comps that I get. I give them each one or something. And like this year, they reprinted Harley in DC Comics Presents, and so like the comps came. It's really cool because package comes, and they're like, "What's that?" And I open it up, and there's a book with your name on it. And you give it to your kids. And I mean, we went to Pittsburgh Comic-Con one year, and this artist had this row of illustrations, and it was like he had a whole wall full of them of different characters. He had a contest if you could name the characters that you win something or whatever, and they were obscure.
Uh-huh.
And my kids went right through them. I mean, they just boom, 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 boom.
Right.
I mean, we go to Guardians of the Galaxy, we go to Days of Future Past, we go to every movie, so they're pretty submerged in it. They know what I do, and they're over it because it's normal to them. Like,
yeah.
It's not a huge deal that I do it, but it's cool in the sense that it's something cool that we share, and I don't know.
So
if I did something else, because they're kids, they can connect to it better. Or if I did something like I was a coal miner, I wouldn't, take them to work and give them black lung. So,
they could name all the different kinds of coal, though.
Yeah, I mean, they could name the coal. And
there are different kinds of coal?
I assume. I don't know. I'm not a coal miner. So you mentioned the Marvel movies. Have you gone to most of them or all of them that have come out?
Pretty much all of them. I think I didn't see Amazing Spider-Man 2 this year in the theater. And that was the first time I probably haven't seen one in a while. But we pretty much go to everything on opening weekend. I think it's just our thing, something to share with them.
Are you looking forward to the Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, or Justice Dawn, or whatever? I can't remember what it's called.
Yes, I am. And even if I wasn't, I would still have to say I am.
Fair enough. I was dipping my toe in the water there, so.
But I am. You asked a good question, but if you ask me anything about DC or Marvel, then I of course have to
bow to the DC gods.
Yes.
Well, it does look.
I'll tell you what. I'll give you something. I'm not a huge fan of Zack Snyder's recent movies. What was the last one he made before Superman? The one with the baby doll and all that stuff, and the strippers.
Oh gosh,
that wasn't a huge fit.
Oh yeah,
Sucker Punch.
Yeah,
Punch.
Yeah, there you go.
Wasn't a huge fan of that, and I like 300 and stuff. But, I wish they'd have got someone else to do watching.
Yeah.
So.
I think that it is interesting that as far as like the kind of movie war, where Marvel right now at least is kind of ruling the movie scene.
Mm-hmm.
I know DC, it seems like, I wouldn't say they're playing catch up, but they're putting out the movies slower, but I really feel like Batman vs. Superman might have a chance of overtaking it, especially if they spin it into the Justice League movie that everybody seems to think.
I think so too. I mean, I think what you're going to see with that is they're going to really market the shit out of the fact that Wonder Woman's going to be in it, and Aquaman, and you're going to see glimpses of that. And they're going to hit all the right notes, and it'll be a big deal. And I'm glad that Captain America and it aren't going nose to nose. Why cut each other's throats,
Right, yeah.
That's how I look at it. I want them all to sucsucceed because I want there to be more.
Yeah.
And, so.
And that's just really that business aspect of it, where there is that competition that's always going to exist in a certain aspect. I mean, it's been going on since the 60s. They've been. Oh yeah. That competitiveness between them has been going on for a long time, and I don't get to read a lot of books anymore. comic books and stuff. But one of the things that I always loved were the cartoons, like Young Justice and the Batman cartoons, even most recently.
When it comes to television, DC rules.
Yeah, they really put out some great content, and it's very unfortunate that like Young Justice got really good there for a while, and then they just canceled it. Cartoon Network.
Oh, it was amazing. Young Justice. I mean, I love Young Justice. It set a standard for quality. You could going back to like Batman the Animated Series, but even now the live action DC is kind of killing it in live action on TV. They're going to have Gotham, Arrow, Flash, iZombie, and I'm Constantine, running simultaneously in the fall.
Yeah.
And
I heard Constantine's going back blonde, so that's good.
Yeah, so I mean DC, they've got their corner, and Marvel has their movie, in theaters. That's Marvel's. They're dominating there, and DC has television. They put out some really quality stuff.
I agree. So if you had your druthers, what property would you really love to write for? I mean, you have Batman and Green Arrow under your belt, and I think, to me, Batman would be a dream project for me, because I just...
Yeah. Daredevil,
oh yeah?
It goes back to what I said at the beginning of the interview. Frank Miller's run pretty much got me into being a writer, I guess you could say, was the start of that. But those Daredevil books, the Born Again run in Daredevil, I put that up there with anything, and Daredevil's always been a character. Now, the tone of Daredevil has changed since Wade's taken it over the last few years.
Uh-huh.
And it's gone from, dark and foreboding and Matt Murdock, I kill everybody, I hate myself, to him sort of in San Francisco, fighting crazier villains like Claw and stuff like that.
Right.
So, the tone's changed, but I still would like to get my mitts on Daredevil. The thing is that I think people are tired of grim and gritty.
Yeah.
I think it played out, and that's why you see, books like Daredevil and Hawkeye and Superior Foes of Spider-Man and all that. I don't want to say this is the only reason they get great reviews, because they got great writers, but it's just a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
That these books come out and they're not woe is me all the time.
Yeah. So. I'll side with you on that. I think movie-wise, where Batman started off, with the Tim Burton stuff, and then it got just more and more ridiculous, and then they dialed that way back and just turned it into more of a city gritty style.
So I like my Batman movies like that, so that's cool. But I don't want my Spider-Man movie like that.
Yeah, Spider-Man's definitely more of a Joker style character. He's got a lot of funny quips and things of that nature, so...
Well, Daredevil is number one on my list, and any work I get is number two. So, a paycheck. Paychecks are number two on my list. So, hey, you want me to do 12 issues of Ambush Bug? Sure.
Oh, they're doing a Felicity remake? Sign me up.
Right.
So, you're working now on The Monsters of Jimmy Crumb.
Mm-hmm.
And how recent was did the Kickstarter finish? Because we looked it up last night and saw that it had finished.
I think it was July, wasn't it?
I think it was July 18th or something like that we were done. And the thing about Jimmy Crumb is a book by 21 Pulp, and 21 Pulp's a new company that I'm a part of. And it's going to have a kind of across the board marketing distribution. That's the boring elements of it. But the point of it is we're going to try and take advantage of as many things like Kickstarter. Kickstarter wasn't around, 5-6 years ago or whatever. But now it's a tool. And so something like, 21 Pulp is going to go out there and we're going to try to hit all these different ways to distribute, market, and sell a book. And Jimmy Crumb is the first book that we did.
You went well above your expectations for the Jimmy Crumb Kickstarter as well. Yes.
And we learned a lot too, and we, as a company, I think we believe that we can do better next time, and that's there's a line we're walking with it, because 21 Pulp is a business. We're not, we can't portray ourselves as starving artists that need funded.
Yeah.
So there has to be a certain kind of balance with when it comes to Kickstarter. But the fact is that it's a tool, and we went out there and we saw how to use it. We did go over our goal. And next time, you know, we're gonna cross the T's and dot the I's and try to do better. And
there's definitely
but it's going to come out through Diamond. It'll be on Comixology. I may be saying all this prematurely. We're still in the stages of that, but we're pretty sure that we're gonna make the cut on these things.
Yeah.
So the idea is that this is a multi approach to 21 Pulp. Is basically, hopefully someday will be Boom or IDW. So,
yeah.
You know, we don't know, but that's the direction we're heading in. We're trying to utilize all these new ways of doing this.
Yeah, and there's definitely a learning curve that's involved in things of that nature as well. I know even just doing this, I mean, we've had such a steep parabola of how we even present ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Is Jimmy Crumb what you're currently working on?
Well, the best way to put it is 21 Pulp is what I'm currently.
Right.
I'm a part of the company, so I mean we have Jimmy Crumb, and it'll go into the next stages of what I said before. It'll go into its next stages, whether it be Diamond or whatever, and then there'll be another book coming out, starting with Kickstarter again, because it's part of how we're going to do this, and I'm working on those, you know, and just basically running a part of the company. And then I do have stuff with other publishers, but I can't talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That fire me.
That takes care of that question.
It's the Felicity remake, isn't it?
So, is there any opportunity that you've ever passed up that you regret passing up? Is anything come across your board that you're like, nah, I don't know if I can write for that, or?
No, money is money. I've heard, you know, I've heard a lot of guys say, oh, you got to pick the right projects and do this and do that. But I've never been comfortable enough to say I'm picking this project and I'm picking that project.
You're like, fuck it, I'll write for anything.
I've never,
I don't care.
Yeah, I've never taken a job I've regretted. I don't have any real regrets other than maybe Tammy Smith in 8th grade or something.
Is there any place that our listeners could go to like check up on 21 Pulp or anything you're working on right now, or do you have a Twitter yourself or?
Yeah, I have a Twitter, and I don't really do much on it. If you type in James Patrick in Parkersburg, it should pop up, or James Patrick in Batman, or James Patrick in Comics, or something like that. Yeah. It's really spelled strange. It's like JAMESPATRIK, I think it is. And then Facebook, there's a 21 Pulp page. Mm-hmm. There's a Jimmy Crumb page. There's my page. And there'll be a 21 Pulp website that's going to be popping up here probably within the next few weeks.
Good to hear. All right, I think that wraps up our questions. Thank you very much for joining us, James. We really appreciate having you on.
Thanks for having me. This was awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of good answers. I appreciate you coming on too, definitely.
So if you have any more 21 Pulp information or other projects that you guys are working on, we would love to have you back on and talk about that.
Awesome, dude.
All right, well, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Well, I think that went well.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think it went well, especially for our first time.
Yeah, I tell you what, man, I was nervous as hell.
Yeah, I could tell. We've been, like we mentioned earlier, Monday I came over and we wrote out some questions and stuff, and I rarely see Remington nervous. Besides, the few times we've gone to Taco Bell and they've said that they're maybe out of churros. I've seen you nervous.
Are. They don't have them anymore. Seriously? Oh my god. The fact that you brought that up is trippy.
I was just being a smartass.
No, they don't have them anymore. They dropped the churros. I'm sorry, I got on a tangent.
Did you find out by going? Did you find out by going and ordering them?
Yes, I said, oh, and could I have a churro? And she's like, we don't have them anymore.
Here's what I love, though. The times that I've been to Taco Bell with you when they've had the churros is, I know you're going to order churros. You know you're going to order churros.
Yeah.
The people behind the counter know you're going to order churros. But you still always addendum it as if it's just popped into your mind. Like, you order whatever you're going to order, and then, like, go ahead and give me an order of churros, too. Like, it's a shock. Like, people are going to, and gasp.
Apparently, they weren't very popular.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, it was just fried bread and cinnamon and sugar.
Yeah. It doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah.
Dicks.
So, our churro interview.
So, our churro interview went really well.
No, I think it went well. The fact, it's cracking me up, and I just have to say something because I know it's going to bother me. The fact that at the end of the interview, I said the phrase, good answers. Just
see, now I have to leave it in so you can look like an ass.
oh well, yeah, you should leave it in because otherwise, it's just gonna be like I'm silent when we're saying goodbye.
Yeah.
I just even as it came out of my mouth, it was just like, God, what are you doing? Good answers? That's just the worst. That's so lame. So, good answers. Thank you.
Really good job.
You did good.
You did real good.
But no, I think James did a really good job. It was for our first interview, especially. We had some technical issues at first getting everything set up, and he was really understanding, which was really cool.
Yeah, we didn't come into it until you guys won't notice it, but we didn't come into it until it was an hour and a half getting things set up.
Yeah,
and we were supposed to start up
because
at 6.
God forbid you prepare things.
I
ahead
did.
of time.
Everything was working fine, and then it didn't. So Murphy's Law.
So somebody came in here with the express purpose of fucking up your settings.
Yes, the gremlins came in and executed Murphy's Law with razor-like efficiency.
Okay.
So thanks again, James, for being on. We hope to have you on again, and hopefully everything will run a little more smoothly the next time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did want to make a correction real quick on
For last week.
Last week's episode. We were talking about something. I don't remember what the topic was, but I said I was trying to remember the marathon bombing.
Yes.
And I said, I think it's Chicago. And then like 30 seconds later, I say with 100% authority, yeah, it was Chicago. As if I had looked it up. Clearly I hadn't because it was the Boston marathon bombing.
Yeah.
So
you were a little off on that.
So I'm an asshole. But something I've noticed is if you go through life and you say things with authority as if they're true, most of the time people just accept it.
I didn't argue with you.
Yeah. Well, you had admitted earlier that you don't look at the news or newspapers or outside or
yeah. I stay behind
things.
Closed walls and boarded up windows at all times.
Just randomly peeking out like,
I am
are the
so
goblins back?
white. I can't see anymore.
Well, you're covered
I'm
with
just like those cave fish. I have no eyeballs.
You're like a mole person.
Yeah.
You're covered with enough fur that from a distance it looks like you have a very dark tan, though.
Yeah, that's true.
So, all right. I think that's good. We can wrap it up there.
Yeah, way to peter it out.
They didn't peter it out. That's called a strong ending.
Yeah.
Again, we're putting another song by our friend Joseph Hale. Talked about him 2 weeks ago on our Depression episode, took his life. This is another one of his songs. We're going to have one at the end of this episode and one at the end of next week's episode. After that, if anybody is interested, any local musicians or anything, and want to send music along to us, we'd, be more than happy to put stuff at the end.
Sure, totally.
Yeah. Something I haven't said about Joseph's music real quick, too, and I kicked myself last week that I didn't say it. When you're listening to it, the amazing thing about him as a musician is the songs that I'm putting on here that you're listening to, he's doing everything.
Yeah.
It's not a band. He's not just a keyboardist and singer. He is mixing and playing every instrument on the keyboard. And in this song today, it's got a little kazoo. He's doing the kazoo. He's layering his own voice. So, he really was a talented musician. So, we're putting that at the end here. Hope you enjoy it. It's going to get stuck in your head. I'm telling you now. So, after you listen to it, you're welcome because you will be singing it the rest of the day.
Right. So we didn't prep ahead of time for any shout-outs, but I know that Keisha wanted me to give her a shout-out.
Okay.
She is the one who kind of connected James to us so we could set up an interview with him. So thank you very much for that, Keisha. We really appreciate it.
Should you leave out the part where you say why she wants a shout-out? Should you leave out the part where you say,
She did not.
She wants me to give her a shout-out, so thanks, Keisha.
She
You
said,
can't see it, but he's making the jerk-off motion with his hand while he says it.
She did not say that
We're
was
cutting all of this out anyway.
No,
so.
we're not. I'm leaving it all in. She did not specifically say why she wanted the shout-out, but that is why I'm
No, I know, and
establishing
it was.
the shout-out.
It's definitely cool to have, little spiderweb network starting to work its way out a little bit.
Yeah, we really appreciate that kind of, I lost the
Connectivity.
word. Connectivity, sure.
Yeah,
we'll go with
that's
that.
a good word. That's a word.
So if you have any questions or comments or you'd like to hear yourself mentioned on the air, you can reach us on Twitter at Dueling Ogres. Email us at duelingogres@gmail.com or leave us a comment on the podcast page or Facebook. Also,
At Dueling Ogres.
No, that's not it.
The Facebook page is Dueling Ogres.
You're a dueling ogre.
Yeah, I am. I'm half of Dueling Ogres.
Also, be sure to give us a 5-star review on iTunes if you listen on iTunes, and a thumbs up or a comment on Stitcher. Go ahead.
Definitely, if you have iTunes and you have downloaded an episode, give us a 5-star review.
Please.
That goes a long way in getting us higher up, getting us a little more exposure. So that would mean a lot to us. I'm not saying 100% because it would be illegal to say that if you give us a 5-star review, Remington can go to your house and will sleep with you as if it was some sort of electronic prostitution. So I'm not saying that. But if you leave a 5-star review on iTunes, Remington will go to your house and sleep with you like it's some sort of electronic prostitution.
I will. Until next week, Ogres, keep your clubs blunt and your tusks sharp. Good night.
If I had the money, I would build a rocket car, and I would take my favorite people to a distant shining star. We'd have 24/7 movie shows and concerts every day. Just like heaven, there would be no sin, 'cause church is miles away. Oh, wouldn't you like to go there too? Well, it's a pretty nice place, but I haven't even made it yet. We'd harness astral power to construct a giant brain, and it would think until it found a cure for sicknesses and pain. And every mystery that bugged us it could readily explain. We would be so satisfied we'd never have to think again. Oh, wouldn't you like to go there too? Well, it's a pretty nice place, but I haven't even made it yet. Our teeth and pour our drinks and sew our silver pants. Oh, wouldn't you like to go there too? Well, it's a pretty nice place, but I haven't even made it yet. Yeah, it's a pretty nice place, but I haven't even made it yet. It's a pretty nice place, but I haven't even made it yet.
Alright, ready?
Yep.
10 seconds of silence.
Alright.
1, 2,
No, that's
3.
It doesn't work that way. You idiot.
You're so stupid.
Uno.
Dos. Eins. Deins. Zwei.
Everybody knows Mexican language is invisible.
And nobody speaks German anymore. Alright, let's do this. Hello, Ogres, and welcome.
Hello!
Hello!
Hello, Ogres! Welcome. We've got some
Hello, Ogres, and welcome.
opinions.
We've got opinions.
On things.
On things. Oh, I wanted to pull up the tech information.
We're dueling.
We're dueling with Ogres.
Hi.
Hi, they're dueling. They're dueling with Ogres. Why would we even consider dueling with Ogres? I'm not gonna lie, this might be the best Jewish guy voice I've ever done.
It's pretty good.
Thank you.
I gotta say, I'm impressed.
It doesn't even sound like me.
No, it doesn't.
It's weird.
I like how you've affected, like, the body language, too.
What are you talking about?
You're like bent over a little bit and your head's pulled close to your body. You kind of turtled your head in just a little bit. Did you hear about Remington? He moved to Hollywood to become a character actor.
I don't know.
But only a really racist Jewish guy character. He gets a lot of work, too.
You'd be surprised. Everybody I meet thinks I'm Jewish already.
Racism is chic right now.
Really have to force that laugh.
Yeah. You looked like you were going to explode.
It hurts. It hurts when I do it.
Alright, so what? We're going to come in, we're going to talk about the tick for a few, then I'm going to let you, because I don't know how what you're planning on doing to segue in, so I'm going to let you lead off with and now we're going to do an interview. Then we're going to stop that, then we're going to record coming back like, whew, that was a great interview.
I'm glad we did that on the fly with no problems whatsoever. We certainly didn't pre-record it and stitch it in afterwards.
That would be silly.
That
Don't
would
listen
be
to him, he's lying, it's all a lie.
unprofessional of us.
Help me, it's all a lie, get out of here, stop listening, run. He's in your ears, he's in your house, we're in your house.
That's not creepy or anything. He was a character that was made for a newsletter mascot for the New England comics chain of Boston area comic stores. And it was... and it was created by cartoonist Ben...
I'm trying to be as quiet as possible.
Just pour your drink.
It's like...
Just pour it. Just do it. I'll put it in the outtakes. It's bad enough that you have ice in a glass cup.
I don't even like Dr. Pepper that much.
You can drink my can of Dr. Pepper and not even enjoy it. You fat sack of fat.
Regrettable.
All 27 flavors. Completely regrettable. And forgettable. Ready? Ready?
I was trying to stare at you like you stare at me.
It doesn't work that
With those, I'm gonna fuck you in the closet eyes.
Alright.